It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books that you can buy and read this week in the world of comic books, obviously. With us always is Drew. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. I'm busy writing comics right now, but I do make time to talk about the best comics of the week. So let's talk about the great comics this week.
Well, you want to know who didn't make time to make the best comic books of the week? DC Comics. I think they released 6 books, none of them important outside of Detective Comics, and we're mired in this weird Ram V, I've changed, I'm Batman, but I'm different, like thing that he's doing now. And I was appalled at DC's output this week.
For the longest time, DC has always been the number 2, or in a lot of cases, number 3, going back to the early 90s. And they have to really work hard to get to the number 1 spot and to produce quality books. Weeks like this, I mean, they're clearly not putting up a fight. They have no chance. And if you're depending upon Ram V to be your number 1 book of the week in his Detective Comics, yeah, good luck there. That's not going to happen. If you want to put
Batman Space Age, yeah, Bruce Wayne joins the military to go to frickin' Vietnam. Like, what is this?
But not just that, but it's Bruce Wayne and Oliver Queen being trained by Ra's al Ghul during Vietnam in his camp. It's like, what are we doing here? What is
Who
going on?
Who greenlights this stuff?
Clearly, someone at DC thinks Mark Russell is a literary, comedic genius. We don't. Most people who have common sense don't think so. But someone with DC has a certain sense of humor. I don't get it, but yeah, it's stupid.
Basically, terrible across the board. Thankfully, there are indie comic books, and they basically put out everything worth reading this week, except for one book that's not even in continuity. First up, Duke number 5, Josh Williamson, Tom Riley on art. The end of the road for the Duke miniseries. And basically, G.I. Joe arrives by the end of this, or at least the beginning portions of it. They're moving into their base. We've got Duke looking like his old self. But before that, he's got to get through the bat robot thingy. Destro has to give him a little talking to it. It almost appears that Duke turns because Destro actually makes a pretty good point. Colonel Hawk did treat him like crap.
Yeah, he did. He pretty much treated him like he was crazy. Everyone treated him like he was insane. He was crazy. Everything he saw or witnessed, that none of that happened. None of it's true. Honestly, by the end of this, if Duke decided not to go back to Colonel Hawk or anyone else, it's like, I can understand why. I mean, the people who you put your faith and trust into treated you like crap and you're crazy. Yeah, don't go back to them. This was my pick of the week. This issue is by far the best comic this week. It was action-packed, drama-filled, and the moment where Duke has he's remembering everything that happened, everything that he's been through, and he just lets it all out in that android. It is a great, great page. I loved it. And what we're hinted at, what we're teased by the end of this book, holy crap. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens next. The Energon Universe, Skybound, they've got a lot of work to do. If you have a Destro book and it's written by Daniel Waters, you got to really sell me on this. Granted, there are some pages in the back that they show for it, but we'll see what happens. I'm cautiously optimistic in this case, but regardless, Duke is the best comic this week.
Well, I'm fabulously satiated because I thought Duke was a fantastic miniseries, just a banger of an ending here. And we even get to see Optimus Prime showing up in a G.I. Joe related comic book for the first time. Great stuff going all around there. We also got Conan the Barbarian, number 10, Jim Zub writing, Roberto De La Torre on art. This is from Titan Comics, really has put them on the map. Once again, we do have Conan in the Thurian Age. King Cole has been out of it since he ended up attacking Brule and Conan in the last issue. I guess he needed a month's worth of sleep. He wakes up, realizes he's made a mistake. He had some visions in his dream. He needs to grab Brule. He needs to grab Conan and his entire army, throw him on a ship, and they're going back to Atlantis. And we get to see Conan doing Conan stuff on the ship. He's banging broads. He's doing arm wrestling competitions. And by the time they're done with it, the entire army is in love with Conan.
I will say, I think you can agree with me on this, Wes, that this issue is not as action-packed as the previous issues. There is some action, but it's more drama and, building the suspense and tension on the boat, what they're going through, as well as, just the romances that Conan has with a certain female archer. And hey, you see her, how could you not? Honestly. And a little later on when he's in bed with her, it's like, yeah, I do that too. Yeah, this is a great book. It's a very fun book. It's beautifully, beautifully illustrated. If this were illustrated by a lesser artist, I don't know if I would have maintained my attention. But yeah, Roberto De La Torre, he is a superstar in the making. If he is not, one of a name that a majority of people are talking about, it's going to be a shame because he's drawn a beautiful book here. And this is a well-told issue of Conan. Do check this out. Second best book this week.
Yeah, that was a whole lot of fun. Enjoying some old school Conan. a newer series, Dawnrunner #2, I believe from Dark Horse, Ramby, writing, Evan Cagle on art. The first issue I liked quite a bit, but it was a lot like Pacific Rim. This is the issue that really differentiates itself. We get a big reveal on what this Iron King is and why it operates differently and why it might have malfunctioned and left the starring character, I guess, in the abyss for about 3 minutes or so, and they're not really sure what happened because something has changed within her, and it turns out they may have done something that wasn't exactly ethically correct, and somehow she's gotten her daughter sick in the process. And I thought this was a really good issue, and even an improvement from the first issue that I thought was good.
Like you, Wes, I thought this was, another Pacific Rim, derivative, but it makes some great twists in the second issue. And like you said, the big reveal behind these mechs, it's like, oh, interesting. Okay, I do like this twist with it, and I'm very curious to see where it goes in the subsequent issues, because it's a great twist. And and we got to talk about the art here. The art in this book is so gorgeous. The fights, the gore, the viscera, the veins, everything that's drawn in here is so beautifully illustrated. These are pages I would love to have framed up on my wall. Do check this book out, guys. If you think it's just Pacific Rim after the first issue, you are wrong. It does take some great twists in the second issue. Do check this out. It is a very, very fun read.
You might get to see an Iron King holding up a Tetz's head on national television. It was a lot of fun. Next up, we get the final issue of You Find This, I'm Already Dead, issue #3, Matt Kint writing, Dan McDade on art. This is the wrap up of this, and it does conclude at a rather brisk pace here. We did get introduced to the human that apparently was on this planet. I believe it's called Terminus. She's arrived. She's found him. He's a cyborg, and apparently he was one of the very first people that ever arrived on this planet, and he might have been corrupted a little bit. He might have actually killed all of his teammates, the other people that arrived along with him, and somehow kind of taken over the planet in a weird twist of fate. Thankfully, the hero character, who has been approached to actually assassinate this guy, which didn't make a whole lot of sense because their entire team was basically the team from the movie Predator, and they were all special forces guys. But she decides to take up the task, even though she turned it down, and we might get some kaiju on kaiju action here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool seeing all that in this book. Yeah, I was shocked. But the big question I have here is for this book is that I was wondering if this would have worked better as a graphic novel as opposed to 1, 2, and 3, subsequent issues. Because I would have thought maybe an original graphic novel, this probably would have been a better fit for it. But regardless, it's still a fun read. The art in this, once again, all the books we're talking about this week, the art in these books is beautiful. You are not going to be disappointed in any way, shape, or form with the art, especially in this book. How the human emotions, the violence, the action, the mechs, you're not going to be disappointed. It's a very fun read. It's got a heart to it. Do check this book out, guys. You will not be disappointed.
And that one is a little bit more expensive, but it's in like the Prestige Plus format. So it's, bigger pages and it's a little bit nicer format and all that stuff. Be on the lookout for that stuff. Next up, we have TMNT Saturday Morning Adventures #12 from IDW, Eric Burnham writing, Sarah Meyer on art. And we get Mr. Og return. He was defeated by the TMNT Turtles a few issues ago before we had the crossover between the multiverse dimensions and all that stuff because Shredder's an a-hole. And he's been plotting his revenge. He ends up bringing out some villain that I've never heard of. The Turtles beat him, and he acts like he's a little kid and gets him to sign an autograph. It turns out it was a contract, and he's bringing him over to like the Impverse or whatever that's going on at TMNT. And once again, a fun book. And this is the beginning, I believe, of the 3-part story, and I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I was grinning ear to ear the entire time reading this because it's just fun. And, reading this issue, I akin it to a Superman Mr. Mxyzptlk issue where you have Mr. Mxyzptlk, messing with Superman. And it has that same vein to this. And it's what's great about those, they're fun. And by the end of this issue, the very, very last page, I was laughing. I cannot wait to see what happens next. Because what we're shown, what we're given on the very last page, I am all there. Sign me up. I cannot wait for the next issue. Eric Burnham, great storyteller, a terrific storyteller. He needs to be on the main TMNT book. This is a lot of fun. If you've been disappointed with the TMNT line, the main line specifically, do check out Saturday Morning Adventures. It's great for you and your kids.
How can you sit there with a straight face and call yourself a DC fan and you can't even pronounce Mr. Mxyzptlk?
It's Mr. Mix. It's Mixes Pitalik.
It's Mitzelplick.
It's Mixes Pitalik.
Oh, maybe that's how you say it backwards. That is not how you pronounce Mitzelplick.
I'm fairly certain I'm right.
No way. We do have one more book to recommend. Feral #2, Tony Fleecs writing, Trish Forstner on art. I did recommend the very first issue of this, but I haven't read the second issue yet. It does have a lot of really cool covers that are inspired by classic horror movies. I believe right now I'm showing the one that's inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a Nightmare on Elm Street poster that they've redone up as a cover here. And Jim did say that he got a jump scare in this comic book, which I thought was unbelievable because basically he got scared by the Aristocats from Disney fame. But I haven't got to read this. Is it as good as the first issue?
It's a lot better than the first issue, in my opinion. It just the tension, the suspense, it's just ratcheted up in this issue because they are consistently in this issue. They're on the run. It's like watching 28 Days Later when the survivors are just on the run. They're on the go, trying to evade these creatures. It's great. They're hopping from tree to tree, and they meet some interesting feral, cats. Cats are survive on their own, and they're trying to help these cats along the way. Trying, hey, come on, jump, gotta jump, and you see them trying to escape. It's a very kinetic, tension, fast-paced issue, and yeah, there is a great jump scare pretty much out of nowhere. Just later on in the book, it's like, whoa, what just happened here? And because it may take a life of one of the cats we've been following since issue 1. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say if they do, but you got to read to find out. The art is terrific. The drama is fantastic. Trish and Tony, they are amazing storytellers. This is just as great as Stray Dogs. If you aren't checking us out, and what we're teased with and shown at the end of the second issue, I am all there for the third issue. Sign me up. These cats have a great character. There's great horror, great suspense. Do check this out. You will not be disappointed with Feral.
How do you get a jump scare from Aristocats? You and Jim are soft. That's what's wrong with you guys.
I did watch Aristocat. I haven't watched that in like 20, 30 years.
You're raising Aristocats. It looks illustrated the same way. Come on.
Last time I checked, Aristocats isn't a 28 Days Later about a bunch of cats with.
I'm just saying, man up, Dolan.
Yeah, nothing. I'm not gonna say anything.
We've got one comic book to represent Marvel and DC Comics. The big two only delivered one book worth reading, as far as I'm concerned, and Drew's concerned. Wolverine, Madripoor Knights, #3, Chris Claremont writing, Edgar Salazar on art. And we've got Wolverine and Captain America finally healed up after being touched by Blood Scream. And obviously we do some Roughhouse. But mostly it's about Natasha going to this party, trying to hobnob. She's got an alter identity to basically go and bid on Tiger, who Blood Scream and Roughhouse actually kidnapped for coy in the last issue. We got the hand, we've got fighting, we got people double crossing and turning on them. All the stuff that you would want out of a really fun Marvel comic book adventure story in continuity 30 years ago. So it's not really messing with the stuff going on now, but this is probably the best work Chris Claremont's done at Marvel in a decade.
Yeah, easily. Had a lot of fun with this series. And it's great seeing Black Widow back to who she is. Black Widow back to being a femme fatale. And because that's her origin, those are her roots. And it's great seeing her, dressed beautiful. She is looking banging in this issue. I love it. And you pretty much just have her, hobnobbing with the people in play, the power players. And I think it's the prince of the island, or the king of the island. And just
Baron.
The Baron of the air. Yeah. And it's great stuff. And I love seeing that with Black Widow. It's great seeing her back in character. And there's some fun, I believe there's great, really good fight scene there at the end. The art is really good. Art is solid. Do check this out. It's easily, by far the best X-Men book out right now. You will not be disappointed with that, X-Men wise in this.
I've already made my feelings known about Ultimate Spider-Man. While I don't hate the comic book, we're certainly not going to recommend it because it was pretty boring. DC's got nothing. If I could put DC Comics in a corner right now, I would do it because they deserve a timeout for their lazy ass effort this particular week, delivering nothing worth reading. The good thing is there are other books out there. There's lots of indie stuff out there. In fact, you've been working a lot with Marat Michaels, Drew, and you have something of a tease.
Blindside is back, and in this image, he has just gotten the crap kicked out of him. What happened to Blindside? Where has Blindside been? You will find out later this year from Marat Michaels and I. You will not be disappointed with this. Marat Michaels is bringing the heat with this book. Once you see these pages and this story, you guys are going to be blown away. I hope everyone is wondering right now, what happened to Blindside?
I do want to say thank you very much to Drew for talking about the very best comic books of the week. If you would like more comic book coverage, whether it be reviews, news, opinions, all that kind of stuff, obviously Thinking Critical YouTube has a lot of good stuff, but Thinking Critical Patreon has even more bang for your buck. If you haven't checked that one out, there's a link in the video description. All kinds of podcasts every single day. Definitely get over there and check out all the wonderful things that we're doing on the Patreon.